Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport. And some interesting news. The All Blacks have officially sent a complaint to World Rugby regarding the refereeing that took place in the World Cup final less than a week ago. And interesting scenario, interesting discussion to have. And you sort of wonder what the point is, I suppose. Some people sit there saying, it comes across as being sore losers, for example. It won't be. Well, at the end of the day, nothing's going to happen from a result point of view. Obviously, you're not going to sit there and say, oh, there were mistakes, therefore let's replay the game, etc., etc. So that's not going to be the case, for example. So Springbok fans don't need to stress about it. But it's an interesting thing to talk about a little bit because it just talks a little bit about where we are with regards to officiating and the accountability, for example, and the avenues that are available if you are not happy with what happened during the game. So before we talk about exactly what's been said, what hasn't been said, and what the sort of situation is, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so Wayne Barnes has been under a lot of scrutiny over the last 3 to 4 days since the Springboks won the World Cup on Saturday evening. His wife has confirmed that he has received death threats, for example, and one imagines those are not coming from South African fans who won the match. And I think a lot of South African fans almost feel a little bit vindicated. Because for years, for example, Springbok fans and Rusty Russell obviously took a lot of heat for the way that he treated referees, and Springbok fans sort of labeled the fans that all they do is complain about the referee. And we've now seen the last 3 weeks that it's not the Springbok fans that complain about the referee; it is all fans. And the complaints we've seen after the France game, after the England game, now after the New Zealand game, kind of sort of confirm that all fans have moments where they don't like referees. Now, what has been happening in terms of the All Blacks? They have officially sent a video to World Rugby talking about certain things. And this was confirmed by Ian Foster, saying that they have officially sent a file. So they said, we've already sent a file into World Rugby to get them to make a few comments on. Hopefully they do. He was then asked about specific examples, and he said, I think you can guess. Now, this is all to do with the cards, to be perfectly honest. I think that's the main thing. Well, there were a couple of things. So first things first, Ardie Tabia was penalised, and it was a kickable penalty. And Wayne Barnes saw it on the screen and basically said, oh yeah, I see that, but I made my call. This is what I saw in real time. He can't go back on his decision because he's not seen it in the big screen, and it was potentially the wrong decision. And he was perfectly right to do so. And I think that, it's an isolated example, but it's a dangerous precedent. You cannot, as a referee, be reviewing every single decision you've made, looking at the big screen. Ask your TMO. The TMO is there to pick up things the referee doesn't, and clear and obvious errors. Really, that's what the TMO is there for, and mostly with foul play, for example. So referee, it's a dangerous precedent. Suddenly you look up at the screen, you see a slightly different image, and you say, oh, or maybe it's the wrong decision, and then I need to reverse my decision. It's a very dangerous precedent because how often do you do that? When do you do that? When do you not do that, for example? Referees might interpret things differently depending on what they see. That is the biggest issue. We see a different angle to what the referee, we're getting information to what they're seeing, and that's why, there might not always be alignment with decisions. The main thing that the All Blacks seemed to have, the big gripe about was the red card to Sam Cane in comparison to the yellow card to Currie. And I just don't understand how this conversation is happening. Sam Cane tackled JC Currie in an upright position. There was no change in position from JC Currie. There was no dip, for example. It was shoulder to head, like shoulder to head, like to straight head, basically. Not even like chest upwards, like shoulder to head contact. There was zero mitigation. There was no mitigation. JC Currie was in an upright position. Sam Cane was in an upright position. It was with force. It was direct contact. It was a textbook red card. Currie, for example, there is mitigation. Ardie Tabia is dipping, is coming down from an angle. The contact was more sort of in the chest area, exactly, than directly shoulder to face contact, for example. There was mitigation. That is what they said. That is why I came down the other card. I don't understand why it's hard to understand, to be perfectly honest. And I'm absolutely gutted for Sam Cane. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he had a great tournament, and that's an absolute nightmare for the captain to be red carded in the World Cup final. And if he hadn't been red carded, maybe they're going to win it. But those are could have, should haves, and would haves, and we can't speculate on what would have happened. But somebody made a very interesting point, and that was that this has been coming for a long time because head injuries and these sort of things are not taken seriously enough in Super Rugby. And I think that that point is so incredibly true. If you watch Super Rugby, head injuries, head contact, for example, they do not get the same punishment. They do not see the red cards that we see in different tournaments, stuff like that. They've got a far more lenient approach towards head contact, which I personally think is a bad thing, and I think it's very worrying. And that, in many ways, has sown the seeds for this instance because they haven't clamped down on it in a big way. I don't think they've been applying it as World Rugby have wanted it to be applied. And you've now come to a World Rugby tournament where it's being applied the way they want it to be applied, and you're suddenly getting all these cards because you have not adjusted to it. Whereas the Springboks, for example, only received 3 cards across the entire tournament, 2 of them in the final, because they admitted that they had to go back to the training ground and they had to change things. They had to change the tackle technique. They had to change their approach to make sure that they were getting their tackles lower, to make sure they were within the realms of legality, and it worked. And that's kind of the point, isn't it? You know, there's always going to be accidental head contact. You know, it's a contact sport. But the whole point is we've got to make it as safe as possible, which means we've got to teach players, ingrain into their heads to get lower, to avoid instances like a shoulder-to-head contact, you know. Concussion, you're never going to be able to eradicate it, but we've got to reduce it. We've got to take every single step we can to reduce head injuries. We've got to make this game safer. And if you sit there saying, oh, the game's gone soft, you're an idiot. And because if you think that this game is softer than it was 30, 40 years ago, you're not paying attention. The collisions are bigger. The athletes are stronger. Players are stronger. The game is more physical than it has ever been. Therefore, more dangerous than it has ever been. And, you know, we've had to look at scrums, for example, to stop, back injuries and stuff like that. And now we're looking at reducing head contact to prevent dementia and players who are forgetting their children's names. And that's the whole point, is to make this game safe. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, if you're part of the brigade of the game's gone soft, I don't really have much time for you because I just think that, you know, you are searching for an issue. And as I said, if you're sitting there thinking, you know, I'm happy for my grandchildren to be playing a game where they don't take head contact seriously, and, you know, it's a game of, well, if you get dementia and you get, early onset Alzheimer's and stuff like that, and, you know, you've got massive head injuries and you can die earlier and forget your, kid's name and stuff like that, you knew the risks in inverted commas. I think it's a very poor argument. So I can never back any argument which argues against the move to try and eradicate or reduce head injury contact. And I look at these incidents and I think that they were pretty clear yellow cards. I think all of them were yellow. I think all the cards were correct. You know, I think Shannon Frizzell was a bad clean out. Not entirely intentional, was a bad clean out, got a yellow card. I think that Sia Khaleesi's tackle wasn't phenomenal, but wasn't dreadful. There was a bit of mitigation. It was a yellow card. I think Sam Cane is very unfortunate, but I think he's got no mitigation. He's upright. As I said, it's the textbook red card. Chesney Colby, potential try scoring opportunity, gets the yellow card, and it's not a penalty try because there are factors there to say that there people could have been coming around. So I think the cards were all pretty much correct decisions. So yeah, again, the All Blacks have got every right to submit footage and try and get feedback on that because that'll dictate how they play next year. All coaches do it. It's not a new thing, to submit files and videos and ask questions. But so it has come out that they have officially consent a whole video and stuff like that to it. And but that's all there is to it at the moment. We have to wait and see. I don't think World Rugby are going to come and comment on it. So this is probably the beginning and the end of it. There's a story out there, so I thought I'd talk about it a little bit and see if there's any sort of justification and merit to what the complaints potentially are. I wonder, do you think is the merit, or else do you think that it's a bit of a storm in the teacup and is what it is type thing? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash the like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll chat to you soon.